And following last month, we have another superb guest in Sam McClary, who's editor of Estates Gazette. Now, Estates Gazette was founded only 6 years after Willmott Dixon. So they're founded in 1858. We were founded in 1852. Estates Gazette was founded 6 years later in 1858 and is regarded as one of the top 50, or top 500 rather, business superbrands and the Bible for real estate and property development, with 250,000 professionals using it for news, insight and critical intelligence. So definitely one of the best B2B business brands out there. And obviously from Sam's perspective, Sam is one of the most eminent and respected figures in property right now, with 20 years experience in the area and working across real estate and business journalism. So fantastic she's able to join us today. Just by way of background, actually, Estates Gazette, or EG, as I'll refer to it, is dedicated to positive change through ESG, wellbeing, diversity and inclusion. And Sam, as you can imagine, is playing a lead role here in driving this change through the industry, especially how we create a more diverse and inclusive construction and real estate community. And again, something that's very close to our hearts too. So a lot of similarity and synergy between ourselves and the Estates Gazette there. Now also, as you may be aware, Sam started a campaign called the Future Female Leaders campaign, which we are sponsors of and have been since its start a couple of years ago, which is a fantastic opportunity to sort of give the next generation of leaders in our industry a chance to sort of develop, learn and inspire other people, really. And role models are so important in our industry, and to try and create a more diverse, inclusive set of role models that are going to inspire a new generation. So Sam's a dynamo of change, and she really is a fantastic guest to have today, this morning. So thank you very much, Sam, for joining us. And normally, of course, you are the interviewer, aren't you? So the boot's the other foot today.
It's a bit weird, Andy. It's a bit weird, but thank you for a beautiful intro, dynamo. I like that. I'm gonna hold on to that one. And a huge thank you from me to Willmott Dixon for being such a strong supporter of the Female Future Leaders, now Future Leaders program. Yeah. Without partners like you, we couldn't bring that program to life. So thank you for the long time support. I hope it continues. I see Hannah and I saw Sarah pop up on the call. So you've got two phenomenal individuals in your business in those two, and I know plenty more too. And I hope that neither Hannah nor Sarah judge me too harshly on how I might present today, because they are the queens.
Absolutely. Well, also Hannah and Sarah, feel free to add your own thoughts and contributions later on. Just by way of background, though, obviously you're an eminent journalist. You're very well respected in property circles, but can you just tell us a little bit about your career in journalism?
Yeah, of course. So I always knew I wanted to be a journalist. So I got told off when I was little for drawing on the walls, which I blamed on my brother, but it was me. So I've always wanted to write and scribble, and I guess, I quite like talking to people. I certainly like gossiping and finding out stuff that you're not meant to know. So there was never any other option for me but journalism. But I didn't think that I would end up in real estate journalism. If I'm honest, I started with a dream of being Kate Adie, and as I think probably all young journalists of my age did, I went and did a journalism degree. I spent a year in Canada doing broadcast journalism. Very quickly realised that it's not safe to put me in front of a camera, because I am known to say what I feel. And then I thought I'd be a fashion journalist. That was awful. Went to Elle, which was very nice, Vogue, which was definitely Devil Wears Prada, and then realised that I'm not very stylish, so that wouldn't work. And then I fell into a little bit of local journalism and fell in love with news and being able to talk about things that mattered, and then went straight to RBI, LNRS, RELX Group, whichever parent company you want to call it, straight out of university, to a product that we don't have anymore. It was called caterer.com. I was on the website, and the magazine was Caterer and Hotel Keeper. and through that started to do a little bit of real estate journalism. So I was the hotel specialist, which unfortunately didn't mean I got to do hotel reviews because it was a trade mag, but I got to know a little bit of the property industry. And another one of our magazines was EG, Estates Gazette, and I was really impressed with EG, and I was pretty impressed with myself, if I'm honest, Andy, a bit of an ego. So I went along to Peter Bill, who was the editor then, and said, Peter, you should hire me. I'm pretty good. I'd be an awesome addition to your team. He said, no, go away. And I was a bit taken aback by that because I wasn't really used to people saying no. And then I went back again and said, no, I think you should really hire me. I am really, really good. I'd be brilliant for you. And he said no again. And I went back a third time and asked, please let me join you. And eventually he said, are you ever going to stop asking for this job? And I said no. And eventually caved and gave me the job. I quickly realised I wasn't as good as I thought I was, because there was amazing people at EG, but what a wonderful place to learn the trade. And I think it's worked out all right.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you're editor now, and it just shows about being persistent. I mean, it's a good trait. People on this call starting out in their careers or middle of their careers, sort of thing, looking to the next rung up the ladder, and there's interesting insights there around okay, believe in yourself and being persistent.
Yeah, and you know what? We had one of our most recent future leaders, Charlotte, who from Islington Council, who was talking about her plan for pocket parks, and she said, and it resonated with me, if someone doesn't agree with your idea or doesn't like it, well, just talk to someone else about it until you find someone who agrees with you. So I'm all for that. Yeah, persistence and self-belief, and if you want something, you've got to go after it.
Yeah, it just shows. I mean, if you've got a good idea, don't give up just because someone says no. In the same way the Beatles didn't give up when Decca turned them down at the audition. Just got to keep cracking, keep moving, keep going forward. And if you have a belief in yourself and your ability, then that will shine out eventually, and you will get the opportunity. And you got the opportunity, you took it, and you went up the ladder at the Estates Gazette, which is a tough place to work. It's a very demanding place. It is seen as the Bible for property. It's probably, for me, the best business-to-business publication in the market. I mean, it's we have a number we deal with. We deal with Building Magazine. We deal with, Construction News, and they're all good in their own way. But Estates Gazette, with the pedigree and the quality, it's always been a proving ground for others to go into big things, haven't they? Sort of national newspapers and big events. Fantastic career opportunity. So you can either stay at Estates Gazette and do a phenomenal job like you've done, or you can use it as a platform to go on to big things outside Estates Gazette. So a fantastic opportunity like that. Just out of interest, in terms of your sort of day-to-day as editor, I mean, you must come across some phenomenal news all the time, and how you sift what's newsworthy, what's not newsworthy.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best job in the world, journalism, because we are paid to talk to people and then write it down. I mean, it is a bit harder than that, but we, as editor, you move a little bit further away from that fun stuff, the gossiping stuff. But I obviously have an amazing team around me that are out in the market and sniffing out deals and what problems, I suppose, there are in the industry that we can help bring some insight and intelligence to help people change those. So, a lot of as you mentioned at the beginning, a lot of the content that we're producing now is around sort of ESG, because there are so many questions around how real estate navigates that as a huge contributor. It also means it can play a huge part in fixing the problem or helping slow the problem anyway. So there's all sorts of things. The day, I suppose, is a lot of talking to people. Whenever I'm at home working, my husband's at home as well. He's always like, "What is your job? Do you just talk all day?" And it kind of is a bit of that, which is great and does mean that we get a unique insight on what's going on in the market. And one of the shifts actually that I've seen over my time at EG is who we talk to. So, you know, when I started, it was very much we would talk to the agents, and they would be the sole source of news, and they were the people that we were writing for. Whereas now it's so broad and diverse in terms of the you know, the parts of the built environment that we talk to. And, you know, it's something that we have purposely sort of done with the Future Leaders program as well, making sure that there are lawyers, construction agents, investors, architects, and bringing all of those people together, because it's such a richer conversation, isn't it?
Yes, I was going to say, how do you think the real estate industry has changed over the past few years, particularly since you become editor?
Oh, well, clearly I've changed them for the better, Andy. It's all my doing. No, do you know what? I think it's not the fastest industry to change, but there is a desire there, and I think I think there is thoughtfulness in the industry now around, you know, it's always talked about being a people-centric business, but that, am I allowed to swear on this? That has been bollocks. Absolute bollocks for such a long time. You know, it was very much about who's going to, you know, the deals, the fees, the ego of the big buildings that you throw up, and not really about the people. But I think that has shifted, certainly over the time that I've been at EG, and the dial has really moved over the last sort of three to five years. And I think that is just because I think individuals have become a lot more confident in what they want. You know, we're not calling it the next generation anymore, are we? The now generation knows what it wants, and it's not, you know, everyone wants to make a decent salary, don't they? But that's not the be all and end all. We also want to feel like there's purpose in what we're doing, and I think it's not there yet, but the industry is becoming more purpose driven. And I have to here, without wanting to deny anyone their beliefs, but I have to doff a cap to Cushman and Wakefield last week for their very public response to Roe versus Wade. And, you know, I think that was a real example of industry putting its people first and living up to the, you know, all the talk that we hear. They were walking the talk.
So for those that didn't know, what do they do in regards to Roe versus Wade?
So they sent a note to all of their US staff saying, should anyone need to travel for healthcare, they would pay up to $2,000 in expenses for their staff to travel wherever they might need to go. Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I used to work for Lang many years ago, and developers were normally a set type, and they were sort of dressed in pinstripe suits, and it was very alpha male and, you know, very ego dominated. And I do sense a change. And do you think that the real estate is now really starting to embrace diversity and inclusion and real change in terms of how it becomes a more rounded industry?
I think it's getting there. I wouldn't say it's fully embraced. I think it is open to it. I think it sees where it is not diverse and it is not inclusive. And I think, you know, the work comes around the inclusivity bit, doesn't it? You know, we can all create more diverse businesses, but if you're not bringing those people together and being inclusive, then it isn't going to work. It doesn't matter if the makeup of your business is diverse. If those individuals aren't collaborating, understanding each other, then it really doesn't matter. So I think the I bit of D&I is so important. I'm not sure that the industry is there yet. I'm not sure any of us are there yet, but there's definitely steps in the right direction. But I'm forever fearful that it's very easily unraveled, as we've seen in the States.
Because you write some great editorials, and
Thank you.
You obviously very much trying to tackle things and be outspoken and do things which people would take notice of, and it's very difficult because there's a lot of sort of banal stuff out there that most people probably wouldn't bother reading, but you've got to be out there to sort of talk about things which are going to put people out of their comfort zone. And from an industry, I mean, this applies as much to construction as real estate. What do you think are the drivers for change? What's making them sit up and think differently?
I think so. I think people, for one, as we've touched on. I think technology. There is a huge shift towards digitization, and there is a need for this industry, whether it's construction, whether it's consultancy, whatever it is, to embrace technology and use it to empower, not to be afraid of the disruption. So I think that's really pushing this industry forward, because they cannot sit back, because they will get overtaken by the tech if they're not embracing it. I think the environment as well is such a huge driver of change, because now we see it every day, don't we? The impact that our behaviours are having on this planet, and I think there is a huge opportunity here for the built environment to be the good guy or gal, and and to really change its perception, which is something that is absolutely vital. It's this is its moment. If it can just get together, everyone speak from the sort of same hymn sheet and be pushing towards the right conversation, then I think the built environment can go from being the villain to the superhero.
Yeah, that's a good point, because we build things for our customers, and our customers have to develop things for their tenants, the people that buy or rent from them. There must be on the residents and the tenants' perspective, there must be a desire for change around low carbon, around office environments. I mean, we're seeing a huge change that's been brought about by COVID and about work from home, and how people change the whole dynamic of the workplace. No one has their own offices or desks anymore. It seems there's much more work from home combined with working in a hot desk environments. I mean, there's huge change, and how do you actually conceptualize that and deliver a product that's going to meet that demand for change?
It's a $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, I don't think anyone knows the answer to that, which is why we're sort of in this space at the moment, where there's a bit of caution, because people aren't sure what the world is going to look like. I'm a believer in, while I'm at home at the moment, that work from home won't be as dominant as it is currently in a couple of years. I think that we will, of course, be more flexible as we should be, but I think there's huge value in an office, a good office, and a space to collaborate. And I love being with my team. They're my work family, and we have a laugh together. We share ideas together. We help each other formulate stories, and I like that, and I don't get that at home. And there might be times, however, when I can't be around them because I need to get my head down, and having the flexibility to do that is brilliant. But I think that we will gradually shift back to the office, but it means that office providers, corporates, need to think a lot more about that office space, and I think that could actually be really valuable for the real estate industry, because it will make us be more purposeful in what we're building, what we're delivering, that whatever we design actually comes out looking like what we design, and thinking as well about how that fits in place, and giving people that home from work feel as well, that there is all of the luxuries that we've got used to while working from home are actually available in or around the office.
Just one other quick question on this before I turn to leadership. One of the areas we're looking to launch this year is decarbonisation, how we work with property owners around taking the carbon out of their estates and reduce running costs. I mean, do you think that that's well on the radar for developers and property owners right now, particularly around the demands being placed on them by their own customers?
Absolutely. I think, the whole embodied carbon issue is huge, but nobody knows how to fix it. So if you're coming up with a solution, Andy, I think you'll be welcomed with open arms. And it's a huge issue. You know, there's this whole debate that there needs to be had in real estate, which is actually, do we need to build anything new? We've got quite a lot of assets in this tiny little country of ours, and yes, some are not fit for purpose, but actually, should we pull them down, or should we try and do something with them? And I think that is forever on the minds of investors, developers. I think the occupiers are a little bit behind in terms of the real estate side of the equation. I think they're very good at putting out their own net zero carbon plans, but a lot of that doesn't come from how they operate within the building. So I think there's a bit more conversation, collaboration that's needed between occupier and an owner to really bring that forward.
Yeah, that's a really interesting trend that I've spotted over the past maybe 18 months about, should we pull it down or should we just work with what we've got? I mean, we've seen that in Oxford Street with the the eminent building, haven't we? And all of a sudden they're saying, hold on a minute, do you really need to pull this down? We can just retrofit it. And of course they're putting a big case as to why they should pull it down, because you're dealing with all the embodied carbon that a new build creates, aren't you? So there's an interesting dynamic going on there that I think is going to play out a lot more for all our customers out there around the retrofit or new builds. And I think that's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as the whole debate and as the whole awareness of decarbonisation and embodied carbon grows and grows and grows and becomes much more part of the boardroom.
I think there's a huge opportunity out there, particularly for the construction industry, to create some sort of like an eBay for construction materials. So for the you know, if we do need to pull something down, let's make sure that we recycle those materials. And I think, you know, the London landlords that have estates across London can do that quite easily within their own portfolio. But think about, you know, much of the real estate industry is made up of small businesses. So what about the one-man band that wants to pull down their building but does have a conscience and wants to you know, make sure that they're doing everything they can for this wonderful planet of ours? What do they do with their materials, and how can someone else then access those materials? So I think there's a Dragon's Den pitch in there somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a great idea. I think it's one of those little things that
if you do it, I want 10%.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I've got another idea I'm going to pitch to you, but I'll do that some other time. But and if you can make it work, you get 10% of that as well. But
okay.
Actually, just talk about leadership. Your own style. I mean, obviously, you're very formidable, very well respected, very eminent editor in your own right. But how do you think that's shaped and molded your own leadership style?
A really good question. I just try and be honest. I try and be. I hate the phrase authentic self, but I try and be. You know, what you see is what you get. And you know, hopefully that comes across in leaders too. You know, I'm unafraid to say what I feel. I'm unafraid now to be emotional about. You've seen me at Future Leaders. Always end up blubbing, don't I? But I think for me that's really important in leadership. I think people need to trust you and know you, and you know, while you've got to be able as well to say no when no needs to be said, and be serious when you need to be serious. But I think for me, it's about being true to who I am, being unafraid of being vulnerable, because I think there's huge power in vulnerability, and showing others that it's okay to. Like, I don't mind if anyone makes a mistake in my team, as long as you learn from that mistake and use that going forwards. It's like, you know, nothing is off the table. So let's just have a safe space where we can talk about all sorts of things, and I will support and lead in the best way that I can, and I'll make mistakes too. for sure. And
Yeah.
I hope that people pull me up on them. I get plenty of letters or emails from readers who think that I am making mistakes.
It's,
And I appreciate those as much as the ones that say, thanks for saying that, Sam.
it's funny actually, because that's a side of you I think that many people don't appreciate. I remember a couple of years ago, I was speaking to an editor of another magazine who was losing one of their journalists to join EG, and which often is a trait. You know, a lot of the trade magazines, the good journalists will go to gravitate towards EG from time to time, and he'll say, "Oh well, I really worry about such and such because they're going to be eaten alive by Sam."
I do have that scary McClary. I know that goes around sometimes. And do you know what? I think when I was a news editor and in the sort of those levels of leadership, I was a bit harder. That you grow up a little bit, don't you? And I think particularly in this role, and particularly after COVID, actually, you learn to be a little bit more vulnerable, as I say. And I think for me, that lesson of learning that it's okay to not be okay sometimes, and to admit that, you know, you're not infallible and the world keeps turning.
Yeah.
That for me has been one of the greatest sort of leadership lessons.
Yeah, I've noticed that since COVID, really, the vulnerability, that people can be vulnerable, and you know, people will look out for you and appreciate you better. I mean, I remember when I was at Skanska, and we used to have people there who would treat you, you know, speak to you in a really horrible way sometimes, and that was just the way they did it, and you wouldn't really say anything about it, really. You just accept it sometimes. But nowadays, you wouldn't get away with that. You'd call it out.
Yeah.
You can't be horrible to people in the workplace, can you?
No, it's a shame, isn't it? No, I'm doing.
I know. It's I think that there was definitely a dinosaur breed that long since passed, but anyway, that's another issue. But just from a self-awareness perspective, I mean, do you ever think to yourself, this is how I need to improve as a leader? Because I think leadership is all about improvement and also being self-aware, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we just had a session actually with the wonderful Ginger, who you will know well from Future Leaders, about sort of purposeful leadership, and it was really enlightening actually. And there's always things to learn about how to be a better leader. I think communication can always be better, and I think when you are in a position where you might have things flying at you from all directions, you sometimes forget to communicate in a clear and concise way, and that's certainly something I struggle with, despite communication being the job. I can get sort of too caught up in what's going on around me to actually properly communicate that with people around me too. So I think there's that to learn, and also you talked there about wellness. I think the balance as well of work v play is really important, and that's something that I still have to check with myself and make sure that everyone in the business, or certainly everyone in my teams, know that they can call time out when they need to call time out. And that's definitely a work in progress. And it's hard with journalists, because we're all, always on the hunt, always afraid that someone else is going to get to a story first. We worry that, if we haven't got stories going up on EGI every minute of every day, people are going to turn off. So it's a balance there to try and get people to understand this is important what we're doing, but also you are more important.
Yeah, it is a high pressure situation. I remember a couple of people I've known who work on nationals, like the FT or the Daily Telegraph, and if they've missed a scoop, they'll get a call at like 11 o'clock at night saying, "Oh, you missed this story. What's going on? And what can you do about it?" And so there is that sort of, that's not a sustainable position to be in when you're being called up at 11 o'clock at night because you've missed a scoop that someone else has got. And you then have to sort of have all the stress of trying to make good about it. And it's all about how you balance things. And I think nowadays, that level of stress or that level of intrusion into your work-life balance, I don't think will be tolerated anymore. I think people are much more aware of the fact that you need a good balance these days.
Absolutely. And the nature of news has changed as well. News is available everywhere. And there's so much of it, and we're getting bombarded all the time. So, we might get scooped on something, we might scoop someone else on something, but it I don't want to say it doesn't matter, because we always want the scoops, obviously, but also, people are getting this from all sorts of places. Half the time they don't remember where they've read stuff. So what I want our team to make sure that we're actually delivering the very best content. Of course, I want it to be out there first, but I want it to be the most useful content for our users that help them do their job better. So that has to be the number one goal, rather than calling someone up and saying, why didn't you get this scoop? Unless it's absolutely massive and we missed it, then Scary McClary comes out.
Yeah, well, that's right. It's an interesting point, because as a publisher, how do you actually remain relevant, given that there are all these now sources of information out there? So how do you make sure that EG remains the portal and the Bible that people want to go to for their news?
Do you know what? As much as the built environment is transforming, so is EG over the last 160 plus years. We started off as a gazette, just a listing of mainly agricultural land, and then it's we've morphed into a beautiful magazine with an online offering, but with more than just news. There's data in there as well. We have a growing events business, so I think we're trying to make sure that we are a portal of choice for all sorts of different. There's my dog. All sorts of different. He hates the postman. All sorts of different sources of intelligence, whether that is the written word in a printed magazine, whether it's getting your AM and PM alert, whether it's reading something on LinkedIn, Twitter, listening to a podcast, watching a video, coming to in real life events, or playing around with the data. If we can do all of that, then we can hopefully stay relevant and a little bit different to the competition out there.
Yeah, right. It's about having a clear vision and purpose and what you stand for and why you are relevant. And I suppose as a business, Willmott Dixon, we have the same challenge, because we've been around for a similar amount of time, but there's no guarantee just because we've been around for so long that we should always be around in the future. We always keep adapting and changing, improvising, and looking at how we can be relevant to our customers and our people, so that we have a license to do business. And it's so important, isn't it? You can't rest on your laurels. You've always got to be scanning what's coming up and how can we change to make sure we remain relevant to what the future is. And that's something, obviously, as an editor, because you don't want to be the editor that sort of saw a decline. You want to be the editor that took EG to the next level, aren't you?
Yeah, I hope so. I don't. You know what? I think, and I don't think, I know that I will be that editor, because the direction of travel that EG is going in is definitely that way. We've talked for years about the magazine only having 5 years left, and it's been more than 5 years. And I think there is, because there's so much noise out there in terms of all the stuff that we can get thrown at us, I think there is a unique space in the market for a digest of some sort that says, we'll cut through the noise. If you've only got a little time to go deep into something that helps your business move forward, here's the product for you. And it might be that is not a paper product in the future. It might be you just read it on your tablet or your phone, or maybe you listen to it. But I think there will always be that EG somewhere in this world.
If you look at how you've careers developed over 20 years and where you are now, I mean, what advice would you give today about having the right support to help guide your career?
I think, start off with that self-belief that you can do it, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I think take. I don't know if you've read The Boy, the Fox, the Mole, and the Horse. I always get it the wrong way around, but it's my new sort of little Bible, I suppose, of advice. And there is a line in there that talks about, what's the bravest thing you've ever done? or bravest word you've ever said. My door is going. Can I quickly go and come back in 2 seconds?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Sorry, everyone.
I suppose we can call this an interlude or a commercial break. But just if you have any questions, by the way, that you want to ask Sam, because obviously it's really interesting to get an insight into journalism and what editors write about. And obviously, I was just saying, Sam, it's just really interesting. Was it Amazon? Was it?
It was DPD. They were persistently dinging the doorbell. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. No.
I was talking about help, wasn't it? What's the
Yeah.
the strongest word you've ever asked for? And it was help. And I couldn't agree more that in my career, I haven't been afraid to say, I don't know how to do that, or can I have some help? So I think that is the best lesson. Ask for help. No one's going to judge you for it, and you'll learn. And you know, as you said, this is all about learning. You become a better learner by always being open to learning.
Because I know in the past, and I've asked previous people about this imposter syndrome and how you actually deal with that, because you must meet a lot of very senior, successful, famous people in your own right. And did you ever have an imposter syndrome, and how do you sort of deal with that?
I have it every single day, Andy, and particularly every single week. And today, being one of those days where I feel it most strongly. So Wednesday today, which is press day, so I have to write the leader. Wow. And as much as I love writing the leader, I get the fear every time I start putting finger to keyboard that I'm going to look like an idiot. You know, because what do I know really? Why do people care what I have to say? Why on earth do they want to see my face every week at the front of the magazine talking about something that I think matters? So I always worry about that and think, you know, why am I here? I suppose, but then I just try and check myself, I suppose, and I'm grateful that actually I have this platform and I can say something. And maybe I will look like an idiot to some people, but maybe to others, they might say, yeah, okay, actually, I agree with that. Or maybe I can, through those words, change the opinion of one person. You know, even when I get pushback on things that I write about, I think, well, actually, I've forced that person's read that. They've read it and taken it in so much that they've been moved to send me a horrible email. So I think you've got to deal with imposter syndrome by just being able to take a step back and think, well, it doesn't matter if what I say isn't what everyone wants to hear. It's okay. It's okay. It is what I have to say. And we all have a voice, and we all need to use it. And who gives a shit what anyone else thinks, really? That's another lesson, isn't it? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if you're there, aren't you? You're there to contribute, not just simply to look. You're there to actually, they want you there to contribute your thoughts and views, and that's important. And that's important as you develop and grow, because it's all about confidence and the ability to project yourself. And I guess that's one of the things about, as it was at the time, future female leaders, but now future leaders, the program. You try to bring out the confidence of people, don't you? You try to give them a platform to actually be able to really project themselves.
Absolutely. And you know, there's a reason that that person has been chosen to step up on that stage, because we care about what they have to say. And people, and you see it, you physically see it at a Future Leaders event, with people leaning in to listen because they care, they want to learn. And you know this, you've been to many of them. The conversation afterwards, there's people have taken so much away. So you know, that holding on to that understanding that you're in that position because somebody wanted you in that position, which means that you are not an imposter. You earned that and you own it, and that is what you've got to hold on to.
Yeah, and also, I mean, think about the program. It takes someone within a short space of time to make and gives them the training to be able to make a big talk about something which is important to them in front of a lot of people without any lectern or notes or nothing. It's like a TED talk, and people think, how on earth have I been able to do that in such a short space of time? But that's what and it just shows what's possible, you know, with the right sort of I guess training and also the right self-belief and confidence, and also the stories they come out with really resonate, and they're so emotive and personal that they really make some of interest to the audience, don't they?
Absolutely. They're so moving, so inspirational. They always help me feel hopeful again about the future of the industry. You know, go through waves of being like, oh God, here we go again. And then every time a Future Leaders comes about, I think it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. We're going to get this sorted. But it's just, you know, for me, Andy, it is the thing that I am proudest of during my tenure at EG. You know, a program that was born out of me shooting my mouth off because I was irritated by the lack of we were getting, I think it's called white knighted, so we were getting white knighted by people rightly so, telling EG off for having too many all male panels. And I went to our events team and said, are we only inviting men? Why haven't we got any women on these panels? I'm pretty sure there are women in real estate. And the feedback I got from them was, oh, no, we asked more women than men. But the women all say no, and the men are like, yeah, all right, I'll do anything. So I, as is customary, I got on my high horse a little bit and wrote something blaming women for not being on panels. And you know, done in a way to start a conversation, and it did. Not everyone agreed with me. Some people said, you know, you're meant to be supportive of women, not bashing them. But others said, no, you're right. Actually, I never put my hand up. And then we launched a survey to find out, well, why don't women put their hands up as much as men? And the feedback through that survey was really, really helpful, actually. And one of the biggest reasons was, well, I don't feel confident enough, or my business doesn't give me time to prepare. There were some other insights around timing of events, how long we give people in terms of notice to step up on stage. But we thought, well, with the confidence stuff, we can fix that. And I'd met Sarah Lloyd Hughes at Ginger and thought, hang on a minute, there's a program we can do here. And Future Female Leaders was born, and wow, what a program. I mean, the people that have come through that are just phenomenal, and it's so rewarding to see them sort of move on up through their careers now, or you know, collaborate. We've made friendships among those groups, and it's just, it warms the cockles of my heart. And I can, you know, if I had to leave EG tomorrow, I'd leave feeling pretty proud of that.
I think for me, on that's a really good example where you've got people that probably to begin with say, I can't do that, you know, it's too tough, it's not going to happen, and within a few months they've gone from that to being, I can do that, and it is possible, and I can achieve. And I think that's the crux of someone's career. Don't fill yourself with negativity, think about what you can do, and if you can't do it with the right skill sets, make sure you get the right skill sets, and the skill sets are out there to get, because everyone has potential to really thrive and succeed. And it's just about putting together the components for that, you know, and making sure that you've got the right people around you, you've got the right training, the right development, you've got the confidence in yourself, the belief in yourself, and the passion in what you do. And all those ingredients will come together to be successful and to make you enjoy your career, because it's about enjoying your career, isn't it? Feeling like you've done something positive in your workspace, to helping your customers and your people who you work with to actually also be successful, isn't it?
Yeah. And you know what? If you can get up on stage in front of a huge audience and talk about something that's really personal to you, if you can do that, you can do anything. Like, that is one of the scariest things that people can do in their lives, isn't it? Stand in front of your peers, maybe your bosses, and talk about something that maybe your boss doesn't want to hear, but you care about it. So you say it loud and proud, and that is strength. And if you can do that, world is your oyster.
No, definitely. And just looking at the real estate market right now, are there leaders that you really look up to, think, well, they're doing a great job, that they're really setting an example, they're being progressive in how they move forward as a business? Because, as you said, sometimes real estate can be quite conservative. So, you know, the big, bold ideas are out there, perhaps aren't always out there in real estate.
Yeah, do you know what? I think we had some huge personalities back in the day, didn't we? In the Ronsons of this world, who were unafraid to say what they thought.
Yeah, Ronson, yeah.
Yeah, they might not be the kind of thoughts that we would necessarily shout today, but I think there aren't quite those big bold names in the industry quite yet, but I think there are a quiet troop of great leaders out there who are doing the right thing. I think of people like Jacob Loftus, a General Projects, who through General Projects is trying to develop in a very sort of thoughtful way. I think of 4 Partnerships and Basil there, and his views around how to run that company for good. People like Wired Score, all these new real estate companies that are sort of, B Corp focused or have a B Corp mentality. I take a lot of joy and hope from those, and watching how they lead their companies. And then in terms of the REITs, I think I've got a lot of time for Mark Allen at Landsec. I think that he is leading that company in an interesting way. I think that Landsec is very different today than it was a few years ago. I think there are some fantastic female leaders out there. We can't not talk about Helen Gordon at Granger. I'm a big Linda Schiller fan. I think she is a straight-talking, hard-working woman, and I mean the list would go on and on and on. And I know we don't have all the time in the world, but there are plenty of thoughtful, great leaders out there.
It's interesting because obviously 5-10 years ago, Hammerson or Landsec, these were the big industry titans of development, and these are the ones that we wanted to work with and had all the big jobs coming up. But they've had to really navigate quite a tough period as the landscape changes and as retail becomes less dominant. I mean, you look at John Lewis, a lot of their sites are going to become built to rent now, aren't they? So the market's changing phenomenally, and as a leader, you need to really be on the cusp of that. I mean, obviously, the chief executive, John Lewis, had to take a tough decision, to close down many John Lewis's and look at another use for that property. And there's a big, bold decision being made right now, isn't there, in property?
Yeah, absolutely, and that takes it takes us back to that vulnerability word, doesn't it? You've got to be a leader who can say, okay, I'm going to make this decision. It might not be the right one, but you've got to be able to weigh that up, I suppose, and be ready to say, I got it wrong, or yay me, I got it right.
You could almost feel kind of around the boardrooms, people saying, "Oh, we're not going to be the next Woolies or the next big brand that goes out of business." That they have to take action now to actually fortify the business, make it resilient to the changes in the landscape. Because you look at the town centres, a lot of them are full of shops that are being closed and are going to remain closed, and the life's been sucked out of them, and they have to reinvent themselves. And real estate has got a critical moment as to what is the future of real estate, what's it there for, what's its purpose, sort of thing.
I think so, but I also think high streets and town centres are really difficult. I know I saw Penny's name on the list of people who are dialing in today, and I think that's a really tough nut to crack, because so many of our high streets are not owned by the big professional landlords. They're in disparate ownership, and lots of private individuals owning them who might not really understand the the way that the transformation that real estate is going through. You know, they're a pension pot for them, and do they really understand the communication between landlord and tenant and what's needed? And this is where I think we need our local authorities and local leadership to step up and step in, perhaps, and really make a change there. But we don't want to get into a politics conversation, probably, because we'll be here all day, especially today.
Well, it's definitely changed the foot. I mean, I suppose while we've got you here, and looking at the landscape for the next 5 to 10 years in property, because obviously this affects us, because we exist to deliver on that landscape, whether it's retrofit or it's new build. It could be for councils, it could be for private developers. But well, where do you think are there going to be the big changes that we're going to see, you know, wearing your sort of ace property hat?
I can't give away all the secrets for free, Andy, but I think there's going to be a huge growth in that sort of the operational side of real estate. So, you know, if you're building BTR, life science, care homes, anything that is operational, data centers. I don't know if you do any work in the data center market, but I think that is a strong and probably pretty safe sector to be in, even despite, you know, we're seeing some investment fall off into those life sciences startups, but there is still demand massively outstrips supply there. So I think that market will be just about fine. And then I think that the lens, the ESG lens that everything is being looked through at the moment is only going to get stronger and stronger, and more so around the S of that ESG.
Society.
Which the industry hasn't quite got its hand on. Yes, and I think actually there I take some responsibility as EG in the way that we report on things, because, you know, if we get a press release through or around a new scheme that might be going through planning, the first question we ask is, what's the GDV? We don't ask, well, what's it delivering to the local community? How many jobs is it creating? What are the green credentials, etc. So I think that there's a shift in conversation that is needed around real estate to enable more of that S side of ESG.
Yeah, and I suppose also how bold and imaginative you could be around it, around the societal benefits of the scheme, long term, the outturn, what it's going to create, what the legacy is. Because I know there's always cynicism about developers, property developers, that they just simply turn up, they develop out, they sell on, and they move away again, and there's no sort of thought of the long-term impact of the scheme. You know, maybe some of that's been guiding the government when it's been coming up with its Building Safety Act, you know, about well, actually you are still responsible. You know, if you do a bad scheme, you're still responsible for it. And I think there is that wild community. So it's about how the industry, and when I say the industry, construction and property, moves the dial and actually is seen by the wider public as being a key force for subtle change, positive subtle change, you know, around upskilling, around supporting SMEs, around social enterprises, and how we're a partner for progress like that, and how we articulate that. And I think as a business, that's the journey we're already on, and I think we're doing well, but there's much more to be done. And there's much more that others will do to catch up and perhaps overtake us if we're not careful. And that, but also how we talk with our developer customers, how we talk with our local authority customers as well around that, because that's really, the narrative is really important, isn't it? It's got to fit what their narrative is as well.
Absolutely. And do you know what? I think the construction industry has a real opportunity to lead around this, because, you know, the nature of your business is you build it and then that's it, kind of thing. There is an opportunity to say, well, that's not it. Actually, we care for the long term. We don't just care for while we're there. So I think you could be real leaders there.
Yeah. I've got this idea for a meanwhile upskilling village, which we can put on meanwhile land, and we can over a course of a couple of years use it to create opportunities to train people and to help SMEs and the social enterprises thrive. And I have pitched it to yesterday, actually. I was speaking to a local authority. I said, well, you know, we can put one of these up if you've got meanwhile land available, because it's a legacy that we'll provide, because we've got a big job going on. It's coming to an end, but it's a big job, and we say, look, we can do this for you, and that's our legacy. And it's like, you can get all the political kudos from it. You can train people. You can give them opportunities that they wouldn't otherwise have, that would probably mean that they become economically productive, whereas they hadn't been in the past. So, it's about raising their own attainment, their own confidence, self-belief. Because one thing we have found when we've been doing our work around social value and social mobility is the fact that there's so many people out there that just don't get the right breaks in life. And if they do, they can really do something positive. Otherwise, they don't. And it's about how we connect those dots up, isn't it, as an industry?
It's a huge community, this industry, and it touches every part of each of our lives. So there's a massive opportunity to bring so many more people in. And, you talked a little bit earlier about, the language that you use. And I think that is so, so important across this industry, that we've got to talk about what we do in a way that is enticing to others. And it's not a closed off industry. Anyone can work across the built environment. There's a job for pretty much everyone. Whatever you like, whatever you're good at, there's something there. You could even be a journalist.
Yeah, that's right. Or you can be a journalist, then come across and work in property as a PR, couldn't you?
Yeah, you
there
could.
You go, Sam.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're. Well, it tends to be the PR company, that they're the one that tend to hoover up all the former editors or property supremos, don't they?
They do. Just taken the very wonderful Mr. Damien Wild, of course, but he will be fantastic there, and I'm very excited for him.
You'll have to resist any approaches, because we need your EG.
I'm not going anywhere.
That's it. Well, going back to that point you made, though, about narrative, it's so important, because I was at the Local Government Association conference last week, and I sat around a table full of council leaders and chief execs, and of course you get imposter syndrome. Well, I try to take on board some of the learning I've had to try and deal with that, but it's interesting understanding their own challenges and priorities, what they're trying to get to. And to them, construction companies are a byproduct. We're just an enabler. We're not, the solution as such. But if you can change the narrative, and I talked around social mobility and around upskilling and how we can support local long-term growth in economies, and a lot of it chimes with what they're trying to achieve. It's like just marrying up our language with their language in a way which they can see common cause around it, and that applies to anyone in property, doesn't it?
It sure does. It sure does.
Just out of interest, as we come towards the end, I know you've got your bikes in the background, and in fairness, I haven't really said this, but you are a phenomenal cyclist and basically someone that just gets out there and does amazing things outside in terms of keeping fit and crazy adventures, aren't you?
Yeah, I like to move. I don't like to stand still for too long, and I do like riding my bike. I do like running, and I enjoy seeing new places and adventuring. And I think if you can do it on 2 feet or 2 wheels, then it's a pretty awesome way to see the world.
I mean, you set yourself amazing challenges, don't you? And it's a good way of actually, you've got your work there, but then also outside your work, you've got your challenges that you set yourself almost on a personal level to achieve.
Yeah, and this again brings me back to that vulnerability. So I've always been looking for something that I can't do, and whether in work, I find that every day, but externally and through exercise, I was that I'd sign up for something and I'd be like, yeah, okay, I can do that. And I found my breaking point a few years back, trying to do 100k run up and around and over Table Mountain in Cape Town, and I didn't make the cutoff for the 100k, so I had to run just 65k instead. And I was so upset by the fact that I'd failed. It really struck me, and it wasn't until talking to people afterwards that people said, well, Sam, you were looking for something that you couldn't do, and now you found it, so that's all right. And you know where your breaking point is, but you also know now what you need to do to get past it. So I love these challenges for teaching me about where my current limits are, and then resetting them and you know, it's just it is just a wonderful way to lift your head up and see this beautiful planet of ours, and meet amazing people along the way.
As I say, I appreciate today's your press day. Normally, press day is always verboten, isn't it, in terms of heads down, deliver the magazine, because it comes out on a Friday, or it's a Friday, isn't it?
It is multiple publication days, Andy. So if you're a digital subscriber, you can download your Digi edition on a Thursday morning. If you get the paper copy, if you're lucky, get it on a Friday. Not our fault, Royal Mail. And then Saturday. I think most people get it on a Monday in their office. But yeah.
Just one last question, really. If you look at your career, is there a single piece of advice you've had in your career which you think, wow, that meant a lot to me?
Not advice. I would say it was Peter Bill with his "You're not going to go away, are you?" And then that forcing me to say, well, no, I'm not, and that leading to, you know, where I sit today. So I think it's advice without saying it, which is like, don't give up.
Resilience.
I
think nowadays, particularly perhaps the younger generation, it's like, I'd say them, be resilient, because if you get said no or turned away, don't get despondent about it and give up, because you just won't achieve what you're capable of achieving. Just stick to it and be resilient. And that applies to anyone listening today on the call. Just, you know, it doesn't matter where you are in your career. You've got real ability, just crack on. And sometimes it may not work out, but it will do, because you've got the ability to make it work, and just learn from it. So
and you might not always know where you want to go, but you'll know what you want to do right now. So do that, and the rest will reveal itself.
Yeah, brilliant. Look, thanks very much, Sam. You've been a star. Really appreciate that. And I hope you didn't mind it being sort of the other way around, because I say normally you're the one that's doing interviewing. So
if you ever want a job on the EG news desk, Andy, just let me know.
Well, I think what we should do is still look like a job swap, shouldn't we? I'll edit the magazine for a week or two. There might be quite a few Willmott Dixon stories, but and then you can come and join my shoes, and you know, see how we get on. Okay.
Let's do it.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks, and thank you everyone for tuning in. And we'll put it on the hub as well for people to watch. And I'll send you a copy as well, Sam, so you can share it on the team, whatever. But I thought it's been really good, and I really enjoyed it. And Sam's been great. Thank you very much. And everyone today, have a good rest of the day, and good luck to Sam, the editorial today.
Thank you. Take
care, everyone. See ya.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Sam, Andy. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.